Right now on the Pro Wrestling Report, it's a special edition of Primetime as we take an in-depth look at the state of both WWE and TNA wrestling. And we have a very special guest host sitting in for David Hero this week. We also share with you the name of the WWE star that will be joining us for a special interview right here next week. There's a brand new Ring of Honor World Champion. Find out who won the tournament to claim the championship last weekend. We also bring you this week's hot news, the event center, and more right here, right now on My 24 Milwaukee.
This is the Pro Wrestling Report, Primetime TV, with your hosts, David Hero and Damian Nelson.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the 16th season premiere of the Pro Wrestling Report, Primetime. We're here on My 24 Milwaukee. Damian Nelson sitting alongside David.
Who? Sorry?
Not David at all.
I don't know if you've heard this, but Dave Hero's been wished well in his future endeavors. And sitting in his place. Exactly. The ratings have never been bigger, ladies and gentlemen, on the Pro Wrestling Report. No, seriously, I love Dave Hero. Great guy, and I'm happy to be filling in for him.
Dave sitting out this week due to a foot surgery he had to take, so of course we wish Dave to get well very soon. But we're here with Arda Ocal. Arda Ocal, who has covered wrestling for a ton of time and currently also covers wrestling with some very, very amazing people. John Bradshaw Layfield, Michael Cole. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's not just professional wrestling. It's an entire news website called the Layfield Report. Terrific place to get all of your news and notes. Basically a one-stop shop, sort of like the Drudge Report. LayfieldReport.com, at LayfieldReport on Twitter, and you won't be sorry. And 100% of all the proceeds go to help at-risk youth. John does a lot of charity work in Bermuda, where he now lives, and you'll often see him tweeting pictures and whatnot. So great cause, and happy to be a part as their manager.
Well, Arda, we're happy to have you here with us this week on Primetime. Very special show, so let's get right down to it, and we're going to go in depth.
Can we start with this right here?
Oh, you got toys?
Wait, hold on a second. I think we need to start with some thunder and lightning. Okay, now we can start. That was for Dave, by the way. Apparently he uses toys on the show,
yeah,
right?
He does use toys on the show, yes.
If I throw this, it won't come back to me, though, I don't think. I think it will.
It takes about 40 minutes for it to come back.
Yeah.
It's a big stick.
Someone will walk over.
We're going to go in depth, though, and talk about the state of WWE. Knowing that you were going to be here this week, Arda, we want to talk a little bit about where things stand in World Wrestling Entertainment. And first, the big thing going on, or not going on, is the absence of one John Cena. Mm-hmm. John Cena out with an elbow injury. However, he's not the only one gone. You got Sheamus out, you got Mark Henry out, you got Rey Mysterio out as well. A lot of baby faces absent in WWE right now. It's obvious by what they've been doing lately on television, but the real impact of John Cena being gone is, I think, missed by a lot of fans. Because he is WWE. Whether you want to admit it or not, whether you like John Cena or not, he is the draw in WWE. So much so that WWE actually modified their projections for their business results for 2013 downward as a result of John Cena's absence. They know they're going to make less money, draw less people because John Cena's not there. So, Arda, this subject alone, John Cena being gone, they've backfilled it to a degree, but they don't really have anybody at the current time who could step immediately into John Cena's role. So given that, how do you deal with a Cena absence?
There really hasn't been somebody to fill John Cena's shoes for quite a while. But this is an opportunity to test those waters. And Daniel Bryan's the guy that's being tested as that guy. Now, here's my thought, and this is a question I'd like to bring to you. What I see from Daniel Bryan this week is week in and week out, we see the fans loving this guy. Yes, 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 all throughout the arenas. But here's my thought, and tell me what you think. I bring it back to WrestleMania 3. Mm-hmm. Everybody at the Pontiac Silverdome arguably was there to watch Hogan versus Andre. Right. When they left the Pontiac Silverdome, they were talking about Savage versus Steamboat. Mm-hmm. Now, my concern is that Daniel Bryan is the Savage versus Steamboat of this era. He may not necessarily be bringing everybody into the building, but once they leave, they're talking about Daniel Bryan. So I wonder if he can become a John Cena level draw. And that's the question that's being answered right now.
You know, Daniel Bryan, he has evolved into a character in WWE. And when you look at where he came from, Ring of Honor, that was a big step for him. I would say that there are definitely people out there now who are buying tickets to see Daniel Bryan. They're buying tickets to say yes. They're buying the shirts with his bearded face on them. They're bringing their signs that say yes. So as he is being tested as that replacement for John Cena right now, I think the answer more so comes when John Cena comes back and what happens to Daniel Bryan and if he maintains that role. WWE has proven for a very long time that they will listen to their audience. And a lot of times you can't dispute 20,000 people cheering for a single person. Daniel Bryan is that guy, and I think that that's how he will maintain his momentum going forward in WWE. But is he larger than life?
No.
John Cena is larger than life.
Yes. That's the problem. When John Cena returns, I see Daniel Bryan being in the semi-main event for the rest of his life. And sometimes he'll have a main event match. Honestly, I love Daniel Bryan. I think he puts on the best match on the card consistently. But is he that larger-than-life guy that John Cena has become? This is the moment for him to reach that stratosphere. Even CM Punk, CM Punk is a guy who faced The Undertaker at WrestleMania, has had these big money matches against John Cena. Money in the Bank was one of the biggest ovations ever in the company's history. But he is not at the level of John Cena, and you can make that argument.
We've talked about the airport analogy here on this program. You take a guy like Kevin Nash, you take a guy like John Cena, you take a guy like Triple H, you walk him through any airport in America, or even Canada. You're going to see these guys, you're like, wow, that's somebody. He does something. I don't know what. Could be football, could be basketball, could be wrestling, could be boxing. You look at a Daniel Bryan, you look at a CM Punk, that presence, not disputing their abilities and their talents, that presence is not there. How do you get over that? How do you fix that?
Not to say they won't be stopped at the airport. There'll certainly be members of the WWE universe that are there waiting for guys like CM Punk and Daniel Bryan. But it just goes back to that point. When they're in the building, whether WWE, the name, drew them into the building or whether it was John Cena. And yes, there are a lot of fans that come for CM Punk and Daniel Bryan, but it may not be the majority.
Right.
So they'll cheer when they're there. But that's the key.
Yeah, that's a good
Who's
point.
bringing them there?
Do you think people are buying tickets right now in mass to see CM Punk?
In mass?
In mass.
That's a questionable.
Daniel Bryan?
No, not
Randy
right
Orton.
now. Randy Orton has more of a chance. Absolutely, yes.
You look at some of the specifics. SummerSlam, it's buy rate. About 298,000 people ordered the pay-per-view, about 186 domestically in North America, and about 112,000 internationally. Last year, some 60,000 people more purchased the event. You go back to 2011, they were actually down under this year with 296,000 buys. Now that was John Cena versus CM Punk. Last year was Triple H versus Brock Lesnar. This year, John Cena versus Daniel Bryan. Does that number tell you anything about the current state of WWE? Fewer people buying what is usually one of the top 3 purchased pay-per-views of the year. What does that say?
Down, up, down. Right? 2011, CM Punk's involved. 2012, Brock Lesnar and Triple H are involved. 2013, Daniel Bryan's involved. And it just goes back to the WrestleMania 3 argument. Savage, Steamboat, Hogan, Andre. What were people there initially for, and what were they talking about afterwards?
You need a Savage Steamboat, though.
Absolutely. You need it.
Yeah.
But that match isn't necessarily bringing people to the arena. Is CM Punk and Daniel Bryan bringing people into the arena more than we think? The perception might be there among the 10% hardcore fans because they love them so much, so they'll defend them to the death and say, absolutely, what are you guys, nuts? Of course they're bringing people into the arena. But show me the statistics that say that. That's what I'm saying. It's a very subjective question.
Here's one thing you definitely got to give WWE credit for. They have tried. Daniel Bryan, case in point. AJ Lee, an amazingly popular superstar. The Wyatts, bringing them in. We've got Los Matadors or El Matadors or whatever they are going to be coming in.
The Aldo Montoyas.
Portuguese men of war from Lusawa, Portugal. So they're trying. They're introducing these new characters. They're introducing
and I love it.
people. But you need a Rock. And I don't mean The Rock, but maybe I do mean The Rock. You need a John Cena, a Hulk Hogan, a Rock, a Steve Austin. You need that main draw. And right now, without John Cena, they don't have it.
No.
Well, that's at least our take on the current state of WWE, ladies and gentlemen. Still so much more to come next on the Pro Wrestling Report when we take an in-depth look at the state of TNA wrestling as they roll into Bound for Glory on pay-per-view in 3 weeks. You going to order that, Arda?
No.
We also share with you the name of the WWE star that will be joining us for a special interview right here next week. Brand new Ring of Honor champion has been crowned. Find out who won that tournament last Friday night. We also have this week's hot news at Event Center and much more right here. Coming up next on the Pro Wrestling Report on My24 Milwaukee.
I may order it.
I went on down to the Audubon Zoo and they all asked for you. They all asked for you. Well, they even inquired about you.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Pro Wrestling Report Primetime. It's our 16-year anniversary, 16th season premiere. Damian Nelson sitting alongside Arda Ocal. Arda, our special guest.
Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you, Arda.
And to Dave as well. 16 years.
No, we couldn't have done it without you.
Woo.
You pioneered in Canada before we came on broadcast.
Some people watching this broadcast aren't even 16 years old. Like, this show is older than
That's going to make you feel old if you start thinking about that.
Well, I'm double that, which is, oh, man.
We talked
Time
about
for retirement.
the state of WWE, and in a few minutes we're going to talk about the state of TNA. But before we do that, let's get to this week's hot news, which are all the headlines you need in around 60 seconds or less for those of you keeping score at home. TNA has publicly addressed the rumors of two talents departing from the organization via a website update this week. The company updated their roster page and removed both Mickie James and Ken Anderson. As we reported right here last week, we can confirm that Ken Anderson has not signed a new TNA contract, and he is actually currently seeking independent bookings. PWInsider.com is reporting that WWE has signed a deal with American Greetings to produce WWE-themed greeting cards and other products. Expect to be able to start giving John Cena Valentine's Day cards in 2014.
Can I just say, watching Total Divas, I understand why John Cena is a chick magnet. I get it. Because the way he talks and the way, like, he's like, tonight you're going to sleep with me. And women will just do it. He just has this way of making women do things for him. Like, he's just, the way he talks is like a mentor figure. He's like you just want to listen to him. He can start a cult of do-gooders and everyone will join. Like, he is just that kind of guy. I get it. I understand.
Speaking of that kind of guy, next week right here in this program, we have a very special guest that's going to be joining us.
And I have to say, man, like, I'm really happy that, well, who is it, first of all? Tell us.
Well, he is a former champion in WWE, champion in WCW, a man who spent time in ECW as well. Currently, the front man of a rock band, Chris Jericho, right here, next week on this program.
And I got to tell you, man, like, I know you were going to have me on the show to fill in for Dave Hero, but I didn't expect you to play the interview that I did with Chris Jericho 2 weeks ago in Toronto. That is such a cool stand-up thing to do, man.
You know what? I got to say, Arda, while we're not doing that, I do have to give you props on a great interview, some 26 minutes with Chris Jericho. Well, you got a lot of the stuff out of the way. So now I knew what to ask him and what to talk about in our interview for next week. But yeah, Chris Jericho,
I look forward to this one. Oh, he's amazing. You could tell, like, professional wrestling is a passion of his, even though Fozzie's taking precedent. Like, it's always great to talk. He's one of my favorite interviewees. Yeah. Always great to talk to him.
You know, one thing I want to ask him is, and really from my standpoint, Chris Jericho has the perfect life.
He does, right?
He's a rock star. He's a wrestling superstar. He's getting ready to write his third book. What else can the man do?
He's 42 years old and he's already written 3 books. Think about that. Like, he has that many stories.
I wrote 5.
You've written 5?
And I'm 28.
Wow. Can I write the foreword on your next book?
Yes, please.
Oh, excellent.
The preface?
Yeah, the preface.
Chris Jericho next week right here on the Pro Wrestling Report Primetime. As a matter of fact, right now, PWRshow.com, you can also see Arda's interview with Chris Jericho from a couple of weeks ago available on our website. But now it's time to talk a little about Ring of Honor Wrestling, the show that preceded us here on My24 Milwaukee. And last Friday, they had a big show called Death Before Dishonor. That was from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And it was the finals of the Ring of Honor Championship Tournament where a new champion was crowned. This one not expected by a lot of people, but I definitely will endorse this champion, Adam Cole, the brand new Ring of Honor Wrestling champion. Great names in the finals of that tournament, including Michael Elgin and Tommaso Ciampa, I always get that wrong. Adam Cole's a new Ring of Honor champion.
Yeah.
Great talent.
He is a very humble guy. I had a chance to meet him and talk to him when Ring of Honor was in Toronto when the opening stages of this title tournament was taking place. And unfortunately, the BJ Whitmer pile driver, which I'm sure we'll talk about later, I had a chance to cover that and see that firsthand. But Adam Cole is such a great guy. Like he loves professional wrestling. You just see, like, even watching him shake hands with the locker room, just such a nice guy, respectful of the business, really cares. And that's the kind of guy that I would like leading the charge. Someone that cares so much that you know he's going to give 100%. People like him. He's charismatic. He's great in the ring. What else do you want out of a champion?
That's a good question. What we did get out of this champion, though, was what some are calling a bit of a heel turn as he attacked several people in the ring after winning the championship. But great step in the right direction for Ring of Honor Wrestling. And we go back to that event in Toronto a couple of weeks back where you were there and witnessed the injury as a result of a pile driver that happened at that show, and you covered it as good as anyone could have, but being there and very close to that unfortunate situation had to be a bit nerve-wracking.
It was very much so. The mood was very deflated as soon as that happened, obviously, and you saw that Mike Bennett was so depressed, and he had his hand in his head. And one of my friends of mine, Steve Argentaro, who's a photographer, he took a great picture of the impact, and you can see how his head was like folded like an accordion. It's just, I'm glad that he was able to survive that because it did look very bad.
Whitmer has since announced his retirement from wrestling. He also did so at the show this past Friday night. Congratulations, Adam Cole, the brand new Ring of Honor Wrestling Champion. Folks, as we told you last week, PWR has big plans for WrestleMania 30, which is coming to New Orleans on April 6th. Tickets will be going on sale to the general public on November 16th, but you have a chance to get your tickets before anyone else for next year's big event. Right now, the Pro Wrestling Report is offering tickets to the 4th annual Sweet and Sexy event at WrestleMania. That's right, you get tickets to the event and you'll be watching WrestleMania 30 from a VIP suite along with the PWR team, which includes you, right, Arda? You're gonna be in the suite with us?
Are you kidding me? In Nolens, I'll be there.
Fantastic. It's the best way to watch the action. You go to pwrshow.com, sign up in advance to be part of it right now. Only a few tickets are going to be made available, so do not miss out. And also, as we mentioned last week, SWO, the Shenanigans World Order, will be invading New Orleans during WrestleMania weekend. Friday night, April 4th, you're going to have the chance to be a part of a very special evening with Big Sexy Kevin Nash and Scott Hall, the original outsiders and staples of the NWO. Event's going to be highlighted by a question and answer segment, where you will be asked all of the questions of this legendary, you will be asking all the questions of this legendary duo. See, Arda, you got me all nervous sitting here next to you. You will have a private meet and greet and a photo session with Hall and Nash, and tickets are available right now at pwrshow.com. They're going very fast. Do not miss SWO with Scott Hall and Kevin Nash to round out your WrestleMania weekend.
Sounds awesome.
It's going to be fun. And speaking of which, well, it's time for the Event Center with the lovely Linda Kay.
She makes me nervous.
Linda, take it away.
Welcome to the PWR Event Center, brought to you by Gruber Law Offices. One call, that's all. GLCW Shenanigans, which will be a benefit show for cystic fibrosis at Turner Hall in downtown Milwaukee, has been postponed due to unforeseen circumstances. Tickets for the event will be honored at the rescheduled event, which will be announced very soon. GLCW apologizes for the postponement and wants to ensure that you know that Blizzard Brawl is still coming to Waukesha, Wisconsin in December. For updates, head over to blizzardbrawl.com. A huge thanks to all the fans who came out to the BMO Harris Bradley Center for WWE SmackDown Tuesday night. It was an awesome show, and all of us are looking forward to the return of WWE to Milwaukee. And that's it for this week's Event Center, presented to you by Gruber Law Offices, and we'll see you at the matches. This special edition of PrimeTime continues after the break as we take an in-depth look at the state of TNA wrestling as they roll into Bound for Glory in 3 weeks. What will TNA look like without several of its top stars? Find out next on My 24 Milwaukee.
I went on down to the Audubon Zoo and they all asked for you. They all asked for you. Well, they even inquired about you.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Pro Wrestling Report, Primetime Saturday night here on My 24 Milwaukee. Damian Nelson Sitting alongside Arda Ocal, our special guest host, filling in for Dave Hero.
Dave
What
Hero's
is
here
this?
in spirit. I suppose this is the Dave Hero of rubber duckies. Whoa, heat. Little bit of this. A little bit of this on Mr. Hero, or should I say Mrs. Hero after his surgery.
Clearly, he gave you some pointers on how to annoy me here on this program.
He's big on the toys, right? He likes to.
Here's what I want to do. I want to give you a chance here. You know, there's several things you're known for, at least in the world
Really?
audience. Yeah. We got no win fails here this week.
People out there are like, what?
Well, they know.
You know what I am going to be known
Ocal.
for? How about this? That's what I'm known for.
What'd that duck ever do to you?
I don't know.
You just knocked the duck out.
It's like, yeah, exactly. Stephanie McMahon told me in my ear, Arda, knock the duck out.
And you used your hammer.
And I used the hammer.
Do you want to do any win fails for us? Any?
My win is
Anything?
being on this program. Thank you very much for having
win
me.
for everybody.
Yeah, it was good. And my fail is, I guess I could be serious for a minute, a la Lance Storm. Dave being on surgery. I hope that he recovers very soon. See, I'm baby-facing everyone on the show. I don't want to make any enemies.
You're going back and forth.
Yeah, exactly. So
hard to follow.
that's my win and fail. Yeah. Speaking of fail, we're talking about TNA right now, aren't we?
Ooh.
Wow. Wow. Where's that rubber ducky?
I didn't coach him on that, folks. When we are talking
I'm
about
totally
the state-
kidding. I have a lot of friends in TNA. I hope the company succeeds because I want them to make a lot of money.
The state of TNA Impact Wrestling, Bound for Glory, is in 3 weeks. And in the last several weeks, several people have taken their leave from Impact Wrestling, TNA. Ken Anderson, Matt Morgan, Mickey James, many others, all recently gone. And now, come this Tuesday, Hulk Hogan's contract with TNA is up, expected not to be renewed.
Would you welcome that? I think I would. I
Would I welcome Hogan not being there?
think the Hulk Hogan experiment with TNA, I believe it has more than run its course. And if you look at it from start to finish, could you classify it as an overwhelming success?
I don't classify it as a success in any way, shape, or form.
So you would welcome the fact that Hulk Hogan and TNA would separate?
Let's look at the facts. Impact ratings. They're either flat or down from the pre-Hogan days.
We have to say, though, just to be fair, it is I think it's the second highest rated show on Spike TV.
Correct.
So let's
Sometimes
be
the
fair
top
about
rated
that.
show.
Like,
Yes.
it's very cool that they are providing a value to Spike TV, which is why they'll likely renew TNA at the end of next year when the contract is up.
And it's relatively cheap programming for whatever Spike is paying TNA. It's relatively cheap. But your live attendance numbers haven't moved at all.
Why go on the road?
You're still, even now that Impact's on the road, they're still drawing 2,000, maybe 3,000 people, and some of those people might have paid.
If that.
Exactly.
Let's be honest, if that. Like,
How can you-
500 is not an obscene number.
How can you go, it's an obscene number if that's what you're drawing. How can you go into any market USA, any market Canada, and have Hulk Hogan, Jeff Hardy, Kurt Angle on your playbill, on your card, and not at least fill half the building? That's the disconnect I can't figure out. That's why it's a failure having Hogan in TNA, because they're just paying him, and for what? Where's the return on investment there? So their best move they can do is when Hogan's contract expires this week, don't renew it. Don't renew it. Why? It's just a waste of money.
There were some great times in TNA, okay? Scott D'Amore,
Yes.
a friend of mine in Windsor.
Yes.
When he was at the helm of the knock, him and Dutch Mantell, when they were in the booking committees, when they were doing writing for that company, there was a lot to be happy about. There were a lot of stars being created. TNA was being seen as a company on the rise during that time.
They had a great tag team division. They had a great knockouts division.
Yes, they did.
were an alternative.
Yes, they did. And you know what? I'll give you an answer. Why is TNA going on the road and failing? Ego. Other wrestling companies are going on the road and achieving some sort of mild success. Why can't we? It's ego. Why would you want to bleed money like that? What other reason other than ego?
You do have to lose money to make money sometimes, but not
How much
11
money
years
do you
later.
have to lose after 11 years for crying out loud? Mr. Perfect.
They have some amazing talents in TNA Impact Wrestling.
Listen, that locker room is terrific. Bobby Roode could be a WWE champion.
Yeah.
I'm telling you this. This is not my opinion. This is fact. He is one of the cornerstones of TNA. AJ Styles belongs anywhere in the world. Chris Sabin belongs anywhere in the world. The Knockouts division, there's so much talent there.
Yep.
There is so much talent there. It's just unfortunate that sometimes you don't get to see them showcase that talent all the time.
Last week we saw a bit of a change in direction. This week we saw more of that change in direction with TNA President Dixie Carter and her interaction on screen. If you take Hogan out of the mix, you make this your primary thing going forward, you obviously still got Bully Ray as the world champion. Is this going to be a more successful direction potentially for TNA to go in versus where they've been for the last couple of months?
We saw a big change in direction with Aces and Eights. That was a huge, that was a big reveal.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it didn't necessarily bring the change that we wanted.
Very well thought out storyline, though.
Agreed.
It was perfectly executed.
Agreed. There was a lot of great elements there, and honestly, Bully Ray is probably the best thing that TNA has done in the last several years.
Oh.
I think Bully Ray is absolutely gold.
He's their success
He is
story.
gold. He is their success story. A guy that comes from a tag team ranks and becomes the biggest heel in the company and probably one of the biggest stars in the company. I agree 100%. Will Dixie Carter turning heel be the cornerstone of TNA? I just don't see it. I just don't see it. I think that it's a wrinkle in a story, and people will tune in for a week, like the whole August 1 warning when it was Tito Ortiz. Hey, I tuned in to find out who it was, and honestly, it was a little bit of a letdown. So I just hope that we're not in that same scenario.
We haven't seen Tito or Rampage Jackson on Impact Programming in several weeks.
They have to train for a fight.
Since Dixie came on air and said that would be happening. But, you know, WWE can make some mistakes. TNA, unfortunately, seemingly does nothing but make mistakes. Even if that's not true, that's the perception.
Yes, and to be fair, we are far more critical of TNA because it's the cool thing to do among hardcore fans.
True, and we are far more critical of TNA because why? They're trying to be WWE. ECW was never trying to be WCW or WWE. WCW tried and was successful in being WWE. TNA, it just will never happen. They need to be their own thing and create their own identity and be their own product. You can't compete. Vince McMahon learned it the hard way. His XFL couldn't compete with the NFL. You don't touch certain things. WWE is one of those certain things.
Competition is good. But
it is.
You're right.
Next week, right here on this program, we're going to be going in depth, looking at WWE Battleground, which will be next Sunday on pay-per-view, just some 3 weeks after the last pay-per-view Night of Champions. Well, should be an interesting conversation. Arda, I am so happy to have had you here this week on the Pro Wrestling Report.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you didn't get the wardrobe memo about that.
No, I certainly didn't. And thanks very much, Dave, for that little tip for not telling me to wear a suit or a comic book T-shirt. Okay, but there is only one way for me to stop talking on this program. End it with some thunder.
For Arda Ocal, this is Damian Nelson. We'll see you next week right here on PrimeTime with Chris Jericho. So long, everybody.